And the free agent haul for your Denver Broncos somehow just keeps getting better. We have some depressed Raiders fans about how anticlimactic their free agency period was. We get some Bo Nix hate we have to defend and some great draft news. We got to dive into all that and way more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton if you like the Broncos, if you would smash that like and subscribe button. So we knew going into this offseason, we needed to come out with a linebacker, and at the top of all of our lists, and it was kind of a pipe dream, was that the Broncos would somehow go out and get the Scottie Pippen for one of the best linebacking cores in the entire NFL when you look basically at Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner and what they did with the San Francisco 49ers, just propelling them to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Well, Fred Warner came out and just talked about how he thinks that on his own, Dre Greenlaw can be his own Michael Jordan, and he came out and just gushed praises on him. And it gets even better that we got to dive into here in a second, but just a couple big things from this article. He was speaking with the Denver Post reporter, and he just basically came out and said, in my opinion, you haven't even started to see this dude scratching the surface. I think his best days are in front of him, not behind him. He also went out and said, I wouldn't actually be the player that I am today without playing next to him. So what does that say as we think about, is that going to be Alex Singleton? Is that going to be Sanders? Is that going to be Lavelle Bailey stepping up? Is that the Broncos go out and sign Bentley like we talked about a couple of days ago after the pec injury and getting cut from the Patriots? Either way, whoever you put next to Dre Greenlaw, you are seeing his former Michael Jordan, Fred Warner, be like, I wouldn't be who I was today. And if that isn't enough for you, the 49ers wanted him back so badly that brand new news just broke here. We had heard that the 49ers put back an offer at the last second. We're like, hey, come back home, stay here. Well, it goes even a step further that you had Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch actually go in person to try to woo him back and give him more money than going to the Denver Broncos. And to me, that is the receipt that we have been waiting for here, and the proof that what the Broncos are building is legit. That just like flies in the face of so many things that we've heard about Denver, and like people are trying to bail out on Sean Payton, or that like we're a sinking ship, or last year was a fluke. The fact of the matter is that when you have Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, like if they're in my house saying something to me, I'll do whatever they say. Like I'll buy essential oils. I'll do whatever for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. And the fact that they couldn't even convince him to not come sign for with the Denver Broncos for less money, it is truly what we were hoping for. And yes, it's concerning that he had the Achilles injury, but we have just seen what our training staff has done with dudes with injury, and I'm feeling insanely confident. If Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, who know more about where he's at injury-wise than anyone else, they monitor him all last year. They know what he has left in the tank. His former running mate in Fred Warner knows what he has left in the tank, and they all want him back. And so that signing just ends up becoming one of the best signings of the entire NFL offseason. I love this point here from Bob, the optimistic Broncos fan, who just said, man, in the last 8 years, there is not a single player who would have come here for less money. And this is proof that what the Broncos are building is special. And this is proof that we should be insanely optimistic. It feels a lot like Emmanuel Sanders, who was in the field house of Kansas City, getting wooed to the Kansas City Chiefs when he's like, wait, I could go play with Peyton Manning. And so the same thing happened here. It's like you get Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at your house, and you're like, wait, I could play for Sean Payton. And I think that makes me just insanely excited. Love this point from Jeff Duncan, who came out and said, Sean Payton is an elite recruiter. When he wants a player, he typically gets him. And so when all this news has been floating around about like who the Broncos have wanted and like, oh, we missed out on Cooper Kupp, we missed out on Stephon Diggs, I just don't buy it, because Sean has shown us if he has his sights set on somebody, he gets him. And so that's why whoever the Broncos end up getting next, we still have some money to spend. Know that if the Broncos are bidding against another team, they're going to choose Denver, because it already has happened, and this isn't orange and blue Kool-Aid. So whether that is, we've heard some rumors floating around Twitter that Keenan Allen might not be going back to the Chicago Bears. If Sean Payton wants him, he's going to choose here over the Chargers, which is exactly what Evan Ingram did. Dre Greenlaw picked us. So this is just extremely exciting. Now, the other side of the division here, we got the Vegas Raiders, and they are just mournful now. And you see this type of attitude all over the place. As one of the biggest X accounts out there for Raiders fans came out and said, we came into this offseason just wildly optimistic, and all they said like all year long was, yeah, I know we're last in the division, we're barely winning games, but we're going to have a high draft pick. We have the second most cap money in the entire NFL. And who are they walking away with that? Like the Broncos were halfway down. We have Russell Wilson dead cap money. And we get 3 All-Pros like to our team. And you look at the Raiders, and I bet you most casual NFL fans couldn't even tell you who the Raiders ended up with after NFL free agency. They took a flyer on an aging quarterback that the Seahawks were wanting to move on for a 3rd-round draft pick, and they lost out on 2 starting linebackers, and you just even see them be like, hey, I know it seems like I'm being negative or whatever. I'm just questioning these football decisions being made. There was a legit moment there when it looked like the Vegas Raiders were going to end up with Stafford, and I was nervous. Like, oh, if you get Pete Carroll and Matthew Stafford and Brock Bowers, and they get Ashton Genty in the draft, and they got Tom Brady, like this is going to be a tough division. I'm not feeling that way anymore, because even their own fans aren't feeling that way anymore, because they went in with more money than any team in the NFL other than the Patriots to spend, and they walk away from it because I really think free agency is that one time that players have the choice of like, hey, I'm not being drafted somewhere. I get to choose to go to a winning culture, go to a place where they're player focused. They're going to focus on your health. And that's why having one of the richest ownership groups in all of U.S. sports, and I know I need to clarify that out there, in the NFL, we have the richest ownership group. I think that's why that's important, that all of that kind of stuff is adding up together. Other NFL draft news that I think is absolutely fantastic here. This is something that we need to root for and prop this man up, and that is the more we can have quarterbacks jump up into the top 20, the more of a chance that the Broncos have of just getting an absolute steal in the draft. Our quarterback situation is firm, and we are good. And so if we could have 3 quarterbacks go in the top 20, that would just be fantastic, because that means, could Ashton Genty fall to us? Could Tyler Warren fall to us? Could Colston Loveland fall to us? What could happen there? So this is pretty cool here, is that obviously you know that you're going to have the Ward is going to be the first pick. We know Shador is going to go top 5. And if Jackson Dart could somehow jump up in there, if we could have a bunch of offensive linemen go early, if we could have a bunch of corners go early, all of that could help the Broncos end up just getting an absolute steal in this draft. And so this could be cool, as we are seeing here that the Steelers are planning on picking Jackson Dart. He had a pretty cool pro day there with Ole Miss and looked good. Looks a little like Mahomes-ish, like in his delivery style, and I think he's like a off-platform type thrower with a big arm and can move and impress people. Kind of reminds me a little of the Zach Wilson pro day that everyone fell in love with, his like fall away there. But this could be fantastic if the Steelers are saying we want him at 21. If any other team wants him before, they might try to trade up and get Jackson Dart, and that would be truly best case scenario for the Broncos, because every single player that jumps us or every single player we don't need, that's not a need on this team, means that a player that we do need and a position we do need is going to fall to us. So overall, wildly optimistic day to be a Denver Broncos fan. We've got ownership meetings starting next week. This is where last year at this time, Sean Payton started the smoke signals, making everyone think that he was in love with J.J. McCarthy so that Bo Nix would fall to us, and that was well documented after the fact. So it's going to be interesting this week to see what is all of the smoke screen Sean Payton is putting up there, and how are we going to read between the lines and read between the tea leaves, and we will keep you informed of as much of it as we can here. Big week. Thank you. Been absolutely overwhelmed with all the thoughts and prayers for my family. We have a big meeting for tomorrow, and so appreciate more of those thoughts and prayers coming my way. In Broncos country, we got a ton to believe in.